And thank you for staying with us. Continuing our election coverage, the GOP is claiming victory this morning. This after maintaining control of the Senate. Democrats gained control of the House by flipping 26 seats to take the House of Representatives and 6 gubernatorial seats. Now, here locally in New York State, Democrats gained the majority in the New York State Senate, giving them control over the 2 branches of government and the governor's seat. Here now to talk results and what is next, we welcome now Micheal Benjamin, associate editor of the editorial page of the New York Post. And Mike, good to have you.
Glad to be on, Daren.
It's
the morning. Night last night.
I know it was a long night last night, and we all got a little bit of sleep, but we're back at it today. I'll start on the national front. For you, any surprises? I mean, we thought particularly that the Democrats had a great chance of winning the House. They did win the House, but a little bit short on the Senate. Were we predicting? Did you predict that?
Well, most pollsters had predicted that the Democrats would take the House, but probably lose the Senate, and it turned out that they lost the Senate, and they lost an additional 2 seats. So the Republicans will have a firmer control of the U.S. Senate, I believe 53 seats to the Democrats' 45.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about this here, because we've got some gubernatorial states, and we've got Georgia that has not yet been conceded. Florida was a close race with Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis just getting by there. Can we talk about that blue wave for a moment? Because a lot of people were concerned that yesterday was going to be this great blue wave. From your perspective, was it a wave or was it a ripple?
Well, if you're standing in New York City or Philadelphia or any large urban area that's Democratic, yeah, there was a blue wave. But if you're in Utah or North Dakota, there wasn't much of a blue wave. Those are solidly red states. Yes, turnout was up all across the nation. Record levels for midterm elections. 35 million early votes were cast across the United States. So voters are energized on both sides. The Democrats have the large cities and the large suburban areas as their strongholds, but it doesn't translate into the more rural, more sparsely populated states that are in Republican hands. You saw just how close things were in Florida, and how close things are in Georgia. Once you go outside the major urban areas and major urban counties, Democrats have trouble taking control. And in a number of congressional districts in New York that are flipping to Democrat, they're close. It's 40, it's 50, 49, 49, 48. It's a very, very, very close margin. I mean, my paper, New York Post, said that the blue wave was actually a little more than a ripple.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people characterize it on the morning after. Let's talk about New York State for a moment. The Democrats have gained control of the New York State Senate you've got the governor on the Democratic side. Talk to us about what can we expect coming out of Albany, given the fact that the Democrats have tilted the seat of power.
Well, the New York is now a one-party state. The Democrats control the governor's mansion, the Attorney General's office, the State Controller's office, both houses of the legislature, the Senate and the Assembly. And notably, the Assembly and the Senate are led by African Americans. An African American woman in the Senate, Andrea Stewart Cousins from Westchester, and our own Carl Hasty from the North Bronx is the Speaker of the Assembly. And so when it comes time to negotiate the budget, you'll have 2 people of color in the room with the governor. No longer be 3 men in the room. It'll be 2 African Americans and the governor. Fighting for New Yorkers, and it'll be representative of urban New York through our Speaker, suburban New York through Andrea Stewart Cousins, and the governor representing the whole state. And for the first time, you'll have people of color at the table, bargaining over the budget for New York State and trying to make things better for all New Yorkers. What Governor Cuomo's got to face now, he's facing a very left of center Senate, a very left of center Assembly. And there are things they may vote on and seek to pass that he may not be, really comfortable with doing and spending money on. For one, I think single-payer health is going to be one that I think both houses are going to want to pass, but it's expensive, and the governor's got to figure out what he's going to do to try to dampen some of that. Early on, I expect them to show they have control. I see them passing Reproductive Health Act to try to codify Roe v. Wade in the event the Supreme Court, weakens that precedent when it comes to women's reproductive choice. Maybe doing a couple of things. There are probably a lot of things around criminal justice reform. Particularly, I think they want to reform or end cash bail. I think both houses there are comfortable doing that. And given the snafus yesterday at the Board of Elections in New York City, I'm certain across the state, there'll be an effort to reform the state's election law. Try to take the pressures off Election Day by having early voting, no excuse absentee voting, and other election reforms. They think that will open up the process and make it a little easier for New Yorkers to register to vote and to exercise that vote.
Yeah, and for Attorney General Tish James, who's now elected, a lot of concern would be her monitoring of what goes on in Albany, given the fact that you've got Democrats in all branches of government, including the governor's office. Partiality, fairness has always been a criticism. Where do we see this going?
That's not her job. It's not in the Attorney General's really in the Attorney General's purview to go after corruption in Albany. Yes, every 4 years, a newly elected Attorney General wants to expand that power and do more law enforcement. We'll see what happens, but I don't see the Attorney General spending a lot of time going after corruption in Albany surrounding her colleagues in the Assembly, Senate, and the governor's office. Now, she'll continue the anti-corruption task force with the state controller, who look at local, municipal, village, and town, and corruption within state workers, and then going after that sort of thing. They'll continue to do that. I really don't see her mounting a special effort at public integrity by targeting the people in the legislature.
Right.
And I tweeted this morning that I would tell my former colleagues in the Assembly and Senate and newcomers that pretend that everybody is a confidential FBI informant. The sweet deal that's coming to you, don't buy it, move on, keep yourself out of trouble.
Wow. The good words from, former Assemblyman Micheal Benjamin, now with the New York Post. Mike, thank you so much for sharing with us. Of course, we're going to break this down a little bit more, so we'll get you back so that way we can get a little bit more insight a little bit later on. Thanks a lot, Mike Benjamin.
All right, bye.
All righty. Listen, guys, take a quick break. More show coming up. Stay with us. We got more open right after this.